free speech. I think we have been suckered. And because, more of the Intercept boys, and I didn't really work for the Intercept. I did contract work. When I did those videos for them, those shows for them, it was all contract work. But I noticed the Intercept boys, Glenn actually engaged in the conversation long before the conversation got to be about free speech. He was already out there tweeting about the tragedy and the white supremacy and all that kind of stuff. But I guess I really shouldn't include Michael Tracy into the Intercept boys. He's more of a Young Turks. He is part of the Young Turks. But Michael Tracy, Zed Jelani, Lee Fong, all these people who are, I don't really know. I guess they probably see themselves more as civil libertarians than progressives. But they are constantly on this thing about free speech. And it dawned on me yesterday how much of a straw man that really is. It's such a straw man because there's nothing about the speech of Nazis that's being inhibited by the government. In fact, it's being protected by taxpayers, those off-duty police officers. They have the ACLU who comes to their rescue every time somebody tries to block them. The ACLU is there, boom, to make sure that for free. ACLU don't even charge. So the free speech rights, the First Amendment rights of these Nazis is well protected in the United States of America. I mean, how is that even a concern? How's that even a concern? They win case after case. They always get the opportunity to go into the one I saw. They went into a Jewish community of years ago, Holocaust survivors. Nazis wanted to go there and protest. And you know what? They won the right to do so. How is the free speech of these Nazis being inhibited? What they want is not free speech because they already have that. What they want is the ability to have speech that doesn't have repercussions, that's unchallenged. That's what they want. They want speech that they can say nigga or nigger and not lose their job or not lose their social standing and have no repercussions. These fools actually thought that they could go out there, have their pictures taken, shouting all these racist, homophobic slurs and have no social ramifications, repercussions. It doesn't work like that. And they wanted to go and not be challenged by counter protesters. It doesn't work. See, everybody's like, oh, well, Ben, the counter protesters try to shut them down. That's inhibiting their free speech. No, it's not. That's the counter protesters expressing their free speech. There will always be a collision of speech in the public square. See, what these snowflakes really want, they want to be, I know you guys don't like that word. Whatever. All right. What these biased bastards want is they want to be able to go into the public square and have a safe space and never have their hate speech challenged or never be held accountable for their hate speech. That's what they're interpreting as free speech. The government has never inhibited the government has never inhibited their free speech. Maybe somebody cancels the event. You know what? Guess what? The ACLU is there to the rescue for Nazis. Their free speech is in no danger of being revoked or even encumbered. And so you have free speech activists like Zed, like Michael Tracy, like Lee Fong, like Glenn. But I'm gonna take Glenn out of that because actually, I did what Michael Tracy said that we should do. This is what Michael Tracy said that we should do. At least he suggested as much when he approached Maxine Waters. You remember the video where Maxine Waters body slammed him? Like she, boom. You remember that video? When he approached her, he said, well, your timeline, or your Twitter timeline, you tweet, 20 times about Russia and only 5 times about X, Y, and Z. So he did this whole tweet ratio analysis, which I didn't think was a really useful analysis. But since he set the precedent, fine. I went to all the timelines and I looked out of these guys who are saying all of this about free speech, what do they say about Nazism? What did they say about white supremacy? What did they even say about Heather? And at the time that I did my analysis, they said nothing, or relatively nothing. I think it was like 1 to 12 a 1-to-12 ratio. One thing about white supremacy and Nazism, and 12 tweets about free speech, and we're trying to block the free speech of Nazis, which is not true. It's a straw man, a red herring, actually. Free speech has never been a problem for Nazis. Those rights are fine. Those rights are in good hands. The ACLU is going to make sure they always have the right to speak. What they have to say is a problem. And we have to ask ourselves is if I was working for the ACLU, I would have to look at my scorecard. Am I doing more defending Nazis than I am doing good? Because defending Nazis is not doing good. Defending Nazis is housekeeping. It's maintenance on our system. You defend Nazis to make sure our system keeps working correctly. Fine, but you're not doing a good thing. You're actually doing a bad thing, detrimental. But sometimes you got to do that to keep maintenance on the system. But if I was working for the ACLU and I found out that 90% of my life was about defending Nazis and 10% were these edge cases where we actually found some example of free speech being violated or other civil liberties being violated, if that was my life, I would quit, just like that guy quit this weekend from the board of chairs. Well protected by the courts, by the ACLU. And we have been spinning our wheels arguing with people, arguing with people who have been arguing that there's a problem with free speech and our perspective of free speech. And in reality, I'm like, duh, it's not even an issue of free speech. It's 100% about people who want to be able to say the most repugnant things that they can think of and not be held accountable. And if you try to hold them accountable, then they scream, what about my free speech? So all of these banners and flyers and rallies that are like free speech rallies, they're not about free speech whatsoever. And I wish that some of our friends over at The Intercept actually could get that. And it's not just them, there's plenty of other people, but I think most of us are coming to terms with the reality that these guys aren't, this has nothing to do with free speech. It has everything to do with a bunch of people who feel as though they have such an entitlement complex that they feel like they have the right to call you the most detrimental thing, the most hurtful thing that they can think of, and have zero ramifications. They are the idiots who sit in class and want to call a woman a B or a black person a nigger and not have anything happen to them because free speech. No, I don't think you understand. I pretty much think you failed Civics 101. There are always repercussions. Speaking of repercussions, Daily Stormer decided to defame the reputation of Heather Heyer after she had been killed with a disgusting headline that called her everything from fat to a slut to a childless use. They said everything they possibly could to be as hurtful as they could to her, as well as get clicks. Fine, you have the free speech to do that. They were not arrested. The government didn't come and shut them down. But you know who shut them down? GoDaddy. GoDaddy does not have to do business with that. You know who else shut them down? Google. You know why? Google doesn't have to do business with them. And so people, and you know what everybody's running around screaming? They're all like, oh, we're going to go march on Google. These motherfuckers' idea of oppression. Let me start that sentence again. These people, their idea of oppression is not being able to call you whatever expletive matches your identity, or whatever, let me say that more correctly, whatever expletive they've assigned to your identity. To them, that's oppression. The fact that they couldn't get away with calling a woman that their ideology killed a slut, they now feel oppressed, so they have to go march on Google. I'm sorry. Can we go back and play that video of Jason Kessler getting chased around like a little cowardly piece of Nazi scum that he is? Because these are the type of people. I didn't get to finish my speech. No, you didn't get to finish your speech because you got body slammed by a woman who might go to jail, she might get probation or something. But you know what? There are repercussions to your speech. And notwithstanding the people who violently thrashed him, which wasn't really too violent, but the people who shouted him down, that was their First Amendment right to shout him down. And if he didn't like it, and his ideology is so repugnant that he couldn't get anything out of his mouth, then he should have hired more security. But for all these people who want to go march on Google, this is really what you should be doing.
Students of all colors
Run.
West Virginia who were
Run. No, play it. What? Way to go. Oh, come on, it's good. It's all good. Just play. There you go. Play it.
And people resorting to violence.
Of all
Yesterday.
This is my favorite video of all time.
Oh, Jason.
Murder now. Fight for murder now.
Get the out of here.
For murder. Invited.
I'll be in Washington.
Run, Jason, run. He reminds me like a little kid lost in a maze with scary clowns running around him. Well, where am I going to go? I can't go over here. There's an anti-fascist over there. I can't go over there. There's a black man over there. I'm going to run here. Get body stabbed in the bushes. Here it comes. She runs up behind him and boom. All right, I'm sorry. Let's go back. Let's go back. I'm sorry. That's yes, he did. Digging in the crate said he ran like everybody saying he ran away like a little bitch. And that's what he did. I'm sorry. I had a rebel in that. It's like the Richard Spencer. It's like the Richard Spencer loop. Guys, you may not be a person who's going to ever lay hands on somebody else. I'm most likely a person who's never going to lay hands on anybody else unless it's in self-defense. Absolutely in self-defense. But at a certain point, we got to realize what we're dealing with, and we have to make sure that we're not bringing a water gun to a gunfight. Right? We have to have an asymmetrical fight going on with these people. We have been fighting we have to have a symmetrical fight. We've been fighting an asymmetrical fight with them. So similar. I hope you guys, it's been off balance. We've been fighting against people who feel like oppression is not being able to call me a nigger. That's what they feel is oppression. And because they can't call me a nigger without losing their job, they feel like their free speech is violated. Therefore, they're going to gather together and go march on Google. That's oppression to them. Meanwhile, people in the black community are trying not to get killed by police officers. But if Marshawn Lynch takes a knee or sits down during the Star Spangled Banner, everybody loses their goddamn minds. It's time. I mean, it's the moral of the story is this. Sometimes you have to fight, bottom line. And I think the worst people that you ever want to push to the point of actual violence are people who want nothing more than peace. I think those are the worst people that you could push, because honestly, most of us would, most progressives, most liberals, we want peace. But when you're talking about harming people simply because they exist, and you talk about destroying them simply because they exist, sometimes the answer isn't in kumbaya. Sometimes the answer is throw them hands. I mean, historically, let's think about it. You know, we have allowed the American government to convince us that the only legitimate use of force is force that is the American government. And now we have a group of fascists who are trying to assert that they also have the right to a legitimate use of force with their militias. We have to stop this asymmetrical fight where we are seeing kumbaya, where they're bashing our heads in. All right, that's not the fight. You're not ready for that fight right now. Okay, fine. Here's the other asymmetrical fight that we have to do away with. This giving voice and platform to people in the name of free speech, it's not about free speech. It's about them being able to live without the repercussions of their actions. These people legitimately want to be able to call women whores. And that's the only one I'm willing to say on air. They want to be able to call women whores and sluts without losing their jobs. If you lose your job, that's not a violation of your free speech. That is an expression of the people around you saying that you're an ass, you're an asshole, and we don't want you around us.